So anyhow, going back to what I was talking about, there's a few things on a couple of the projects I noticed that I could probably do a better job integrating with the Dynamics team from the adoption side of things. And so created a playbook, probably more so for me than anybody, but part of that is just how I work with you guys too, and making sure you guys are aware of when I come into a project and what I'm doing in a project and all of that. So that's what I really wanted to just go over today and share with you, get any feedback or thoughts or whatever it may be process. So a couple things. We talk about adoption. There is a lot that goes into adoption. And once again, I'm not going to focus so much on this part of it. I think you guys know quite a bit of it. Made a list of everything here in this playbook. But more so what I wanted to talk about is, like I say, how I'm working with the team for adoption. So I guess a couple things. First of all, who can tell me the percentage of people that are early adopters? This is just generalizing and speaking. What percentage of people are early adopters for organizations?
Less than 10%.
0.
5.
Maybe 5.
0. I was expecting from these guys like nobody. Everybody sucks at it. Actually, it's about 16% of people are early adopters. Okay, so that leaves a huge chunk of people in an organization, 84% of the people that need help along the way. Okay, and so that's what we try to focus in is really, I mean, we focus in on the people that are early adopters as well. They'll need help, but there's a big bulk of people that need some help in that. So we'll want to focus in on that is trying to get everybody on board. And that's one reason why you are trying to implement the adoption part of it is to get people actually using the technology. So another question for you, what is adoption? Now I know there's no wrong answer and this is kind of a dumb question, but how would you guys define adoption? Like what does that mean?
A user actively wanting to use the system.
Actively wanted. Key thing there, wanted would probably be a key word in there, right?
Great.
That was good. That was good. Anybody else stabbed at it? That wasn't wrong either, just so you know, wrong answer. Anybody else?
Use it for my job.
People using it. Usage. People using it.
Exactly, and that's how Microsoft measures it right now, especially with Dynamics, is usage. You log in, there's a user, and you're using it. Does that really tell us a whole lot about things? I mean, we log in for 2 seconds, and what does that mean? I have no idea. So, but that is part of it, is actively, you're just using it, logging in. Okay. Jeff, did you say something earlier? Sorry, I think I might have missed what you'd said.
I said usage. Yeah, I said I use it for my job. That means I've adopted it. I use it now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people are obviously doing this for, especially with Dynamics, is work-related items. So it was interesting. So I was talking to the Dynamics CSMs at Microsoft, and they were trying to figure out a way to understand people's usage with Dynamics a little bit better. And I thought that was kind of interesting coming from Microsoft. Can you guys think of any other ways that you can measure usage? We're going to come back to this question. So it's kind of Eric is deep in thought. He is going to pull something out here.
Something that influences your KPIs.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to monetary incentives. Tell me what you're meaning there.
Like if you're a sales guy or a salesperson, we're talking about like incentivizing usage. Sorry, I might have missed the actual question. So.
Well, anything that would help measure usage. No, I think that could be part of it too. The other way to measure usage is through productivity, okay, which is a lot harder to measure, and it's going to come back to a little bit more of what you're seeing on the screen here and this playbook. But when we start measuring productivity, we have to take some business use cases that we have, and then are we implementing them, and then are we using them, or what was the purpose of that, and how did we do on hitting our goal, right? So for instance, let's take let's take a project. Let's Mac you, Jeff. You're working on that project, and I know it's customer service, and they have the call center there. What was one of the objectives of this project? And any of them is fine. But like, what was the whole purpose of doing that project?
The whole purpose was they wanted to have a CRM system that centralizes their relationship with their members that bank there. Like they have a CRM system, but a lot of the service center people don't use it very often. They don't log activities. It might present them with some sales pitch stuff like, hey, this member doesn't have this account, offer this. But most of the time they're just working out of their transaction system to complete the transaction and leave a note there. Now they're starting to kind of have a relationship management system tracking that and handling those calls for them. So,
okay, perfect. And so I think one of the reasons that we keep diving into that, we have, tracking those calls, diving into it, we probably would look into less, I don't know how to say this, support time, as far as customer service on the call with customers needing support, whatever it is. So we're trying to cut down on that time. We'd probably look at things like better just customer service in general. And I'm kind of making this up and generalizing, and you'll get my
efficiency.
I don't know what just happened there. All right.
I can still see it.
Yeah,
I can still see it.
efficiency. Okay. Sorry about the handwriting. That just spelled it wrong, writing too fast, but you get my point. So efficiency. Yeah, so all those things. So now as we start doing this, we can start understanding some of the use cases and what they're looking for. Now we also have something to measure against. Okay, so now if we start looking at customer service and the time on the call, we can actually measure how much somebody in customer service is on a call, and then if we decrease that time or not, and if we start hitting some of our goals. And so these are just some of the examples of what we'd want to do as far as another way to measure usage or productivity as well, right? So but now this one is a little bit harder. Obviously before we can just log in and we can see usage, and then we got a number and we're like, wow, yeah, 90% of people are logged in and we use it and we think that's awesome. But did we really hit our goals of the project? So what I want to talk a little bit about is kind of where I'd come in to work with you guys as a team on different projects. And this can mean something different on every project, big, small, whatever it is. So we have to you have to work with us a little bit on projects. But from an adoption point of view and dynamics, well, let me back up a little bit here. One of the reasons we started focusing on dynamics is because when you guys, it's a big part of JourneyTEAM. You guys do a tremendous job here, for sure. And we also see an opportunity on this end of it, because with the adoption piece of it, especially with something like dynamics, it's not really easy because every project you guys have is different, right? And so trying to understand those use cases and the business processes behind every single project is different and a challenge. If I go and do something with Teams, for the most part, Teams is Teams. There might be some use cases, but Teams is Teams, and we know how to use it, right? Well, Dynamics is not always that way. And so, there's really a lot of either catch up or learning their business processes. And so we looked at this as a challenge, but also a big opportunity for us at JourneyTEAM to really to help the customer in different ways. And like I said, you guys are already doing such a good job. Just one more way to try to get some of those results.
Can I take a quick time out to maybe ask a question on behalf of the group, and something that you probably heard from other teams here at JourneyTEAM? Yeah. When and why should I do an adoption workshop?
Yes, that's exactly what I was just going to get to. Thank you. No, I appreciate you asking, because I backed up just a little bit to kind of explain that it is difficult. There's a lot of business processes. There's a lot of things going on. What we looked at is maybe that opportunity or how I fit in better is from the adoption side of things, coming in earlier on in the process and doing this workshop that Eric has mentioned here. And so that's where we created this playbook. And just to kind of tell you how this works and what it is, I just went over the steps of what we do in adoption. And that first one, obviously pretty simple. It's important for us to get this into the partner center, the deal. But the workshop, what that is, that's not to take the place of anything you guys are doing, because you guys do a tremendous job on the discovery, everything as well. The workshop, what that does is more focused on the customer leadership and putting together a team for the people side of the project. We'll be focused on things like what's the purpose of this project? Like what we had just discussed, there is a purpose. Okay, we know that there's a call center there. They want to be able to implement this phone system and cut down on time. So making sure we have those, the purpose of the project in the sense of what our flag plants, probably at a higher level from a business perspective, have those in place along with all the technical flag plants that we're having as well. And so this workshop would come in from the start, and we start talking about the objectives or the purpose of the project, define those, and then the next step in that workshop is to understand some of the particulars, like what do we want the people to do to accomplish this purpose, right? And so we would, it might be, taking customer service and what are the exact steps and everything we want the people to do. And then from there, understanding who those people are. So the different groups, it could be customer service. Who else is involved with customer service that time? Maybe there's management group or whatever it is, but understanding those people. And so that workshop that we're talking about really comes in at the start through discovery, working on those business outcomes, business use cases. And then from there, we would start building out that plan. Okay, so one of the questions is we start doing these workshops and we start understanding the purpose of the workshop, what we want people to do in the workshop and who they are. Now we know if we don't get those people to do those actions, we don't reach our purpose, the objectives. Okay, so it really starts laying things out for us, some good groundwork of what we're trying to achieve.
And I don't know if you guys can see my timeouts to BJ. If you're in the room, you can. Reason why BJ and I talked about this and why BJ is here is we build really cool stuff. We see it all day, every day, 24 hours a day, sometimes if you dream about it like Gordon. And we know how to use it. End user, no idea. Especially if this is the first time they've ever seen Dynamic. The whole intent around kind of mapping out this workshop is for us to see it in a different perspective and have it be in our mind and be cognizant that we need people to use this tool. Like this organization is coming to JourneyTEAM, like they're investing in us to help them be successful. And we can build the coolest tool ever and it can be super functional, but if people don't understand why they need to use it and how to use it, share your statistic, BJ. How many projects actually failed because of the technology?
Does anybody know how many projects fell because of the technology?
42.
42, the percentage? 10?
Hey, Smitty, 42 is not the answer to life, or the universe, or
And everything.
thriving.
I like it. There's 3% of projects fail because of the technology. It's because you guys are on top of it and you can fix it, right? So if something breaks or whatever it is, you guys can fix it. And just like Eric said, you guys build all this cool stuff, but if people don't know it's there, it doesn't get used, okay? And so that's where it comes in. 97% of the projects, we need to focus on the people side of things to make sure they understand why it's there, how to use it, and what it's there for. So
Even to go along with that, is that how many of our projects or stakeholders are IT people, but they're not the actual users of the system. So it might make sense to us and then, but thinking from the perspective of the actual user, what we're doing might not make any sense at all.
And it could be called out as a risk of, hey, IT person, who from the business is involved in this project and is a stakeholder. And a lot of times we can use that and spin it with that IT person to say, let's make sure that this is successful. Like, don't just try and do this by yourself. Like, there's a high chance of failure if you don't include these people.
Exactly. Very good points. And that's what, just to kind of get, I'm going to show you something I created I first did an adoption team. Okay. We named everybody here. And like Eric just said, we do want some technical people involved with that, but we want a lot of non-technical people involved with that as well, for the reasons we just talked about. We want to get everybody involved. If one person thinks they can do this, they're wrong. That's not how it works. You need to get everybody involved. And so it's important as we go through, you see executive sponsors, stakeholders, key stakeholders, build a champions program, all of that kind of stuff to try to get as many people involved as possible. So that's part of the adoption planning process that we'll all be doing. But that first workshop is really important because not only you guys are doing the discovery, continue doing what you're doing, but now I'm taking some of these things from the people side and the business outcomes and the things we want the people to do, and working closely with you guys to put this all together into one goal of what we have for success, right? And so with that, as we create this, there might be a time where I come in at the start and then maybe step back a little bit while the building is going on, everything's happening that way. Maybe not. Part of it is the training, okay? And going along with what I had mentioned before, it's very hard when you guys are doing this stuff and it's custom or there's business process involved to come in a couple weeks before training and say, okay, train on this. Like, on what? I have no idea. I spend a lot of hours playing catch up, trying to get what you guys have already done. But does a customer really want to pay for that? Or does it make more sense to do that up front and be involved with that? Or does it make sense for somebody on this team to do the training? And what I mean by that is, and I'm not trying to pawn anything off, I would create everything for you, as far as how that would work and everything. And then you guys can go over what you already know. But those are the kind of things we would want to make sure we're discussing as a team up front, so we know exactly how that looks for the project. There might be times it makes total sense for me to do the training on everything. There might be times, depending on the customer, it makes more sense for one of you to do the training. Maybe do training documents or whatever it is to accompany what you'd be doing on the training. But those are the kind of things we want to work out early in the project to make sure it runs smoothly and we're not playing catch up. So, and I know we don't have a ton of time left, Eric. You're
I've got
5 minutes.
5, 10 minutes.
Okay. And that's one of the big things, though, that I wanted to make sure I was communicating with all of you. And I'm going to go back to this PowerPoint here just a little bit as far as how that works and maybe how I fit into what you guys are doing from the adoption side of things. Okay. So there is all this adoption stuff we're looking here. We can see training strategy, awareness, the communication, all the stuff we're going to be doing. But to make sure that we start thinking about these things up front, where we can come in and work closely with you guys on the discovery, have those as flag plants as well. And then as we take some of those, the goals, the objectives of the project, we can start measuring towards those goals. Because at the end, you can see we have success metrics. So if we come in halfway through the project, and not only am I trying to catch up on the training, but I don't even know why we're doing the project, and then trying to measure against that, there's a lot of catch up there as well. So if we can get that done up front and then know how are we actually going to measure what we're trying to do, that's going to help us as we start the whole project and the building part of things as well. So, and this slide here just kind of goes along with it. So as we talk about the adoption part of it, and really driving value is the purpose of what we're trying to do. Everything starts right from the start, from you guys with the discovery, myself as well, understanding those business outcomes, to the building process, to activation or launch, and continue to drive that value.
One thing this is a great visual. I would say the one key thing of this visual that's not there, inferred, right, is the communication. about the plan, right? So I couldn't tell you how often BJ was working with the resources on our side and then in constant communication with like their training team and their training manager to say, we're doing this on the JT side. This is now ready. Let's go back into the training. Let's work with those training coordinators. Let's update the, information. Let's make sure people are aware of this, right? So as you look at this visual, think of the same line going along with the time axis is the communication of just constant communication of this is where we're at. This is what's going on. This is now ready to start going through, review or training or testing, because that just increases the visibility of the project and increases those chances for success.
Yep, exactly. I think with anything, it comes down to communication. Not only from my side with the customer and all the end user, communication is so important. Why are we doing this and some of the details, but us internally, like Eric just mentioned, right from the start. So we know that who's doing the training or who's doing this, when's the release, all these kind of things just to make sure we're on the same page. Such a huge part of any project is to make sure we're all communicating, we're all on the same team and understanding what we need to do for success. Sure. And part of that too is when we start talking about communicating, hopefully I can make that easier on all of you guys. That's, I know a lot of you probably don't like to do it. You want to do your thing and build, and that makes total sense. There's things like creating a community site. We'll do that in SharePoint, have a SharePoint communication site. Send me the release notes. I can put them up there. If that's part of our plan to what we need to do to communicate for the customer and everything. So it's those kind of things too. We can make things a lot easier as we start doing this and have a good plan behind it. Hopefully cut down on the hours and the catch up that we do on all these projects. So that's all I have as far as kind of how I fit into it. And I know, like I say, 2:30, I know Eric had some stuff as well, but any questions or comments or thoughts, I definitely want to make sure that I communicate good with you guys. And so if you guys have things that you've seen work or any thoughts behind it, I would love to hear it and make sure we're doing those things.
I suppose kind of going back to Eric mentioned is when do we need to engage with you, Jay? Is it kind of based on like project size, or is it just kind of complexity?
It can really be on anything. It's about getting people to actually use the product, right? And this right here, in a sense, is technology agnostic. This is what I would do for anybody. Dynamics is different though, because it is the business process is very heavily weighted on that side, and so it's hard to catch up a lot of times. So ideally, I can even do like the workshop as a pre-sales kind of deal to make sure, and in a sense, kind of sell it that way. Like, what's the purpose? There could be duplicate applications. We could say we're saving money. We could do all sorts of stuff to help sell that. But we could come in at any time and do this, but it's really about getting users to use the product and drive value behind what we're doing.
I mean, just as maybe a rough guideline, it's in that medium plus, medium to large, extra large size of projects, where we know that there are multiple departments or groups at play, right? Where adoption and communication needs to be messaged and thought of. Like, those are probably some good keys or flags for us to be looking for. And then again, maybe the BJ just advises us and we run with it. But if it's like a really big project and we're like got so many work streams ourselves that we have to focus on, then that's where we may ask BJ to come in and actually help drive the adoption part of it.
I can even come in, let's say you're working with somebody with 50, 75 users. I can come in and do like this workshop and start laying out a plan and let you guys or them run with it. Whoever it makes sense. So it's like, okay, we nailed down the objectives. We know what we want the users to do, who we're impacting. Okay, and we can put a plan together and then let people run with it if that's a better option too. So it could be maybe a half day with some of them. It could be full time. So.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said right before you started taking questions about setting up a separate SharePoint site to communicate with them. seems to me it would be better done in the team site that they're already in. Maybe set up a channel there for it instead of a totally separate place they have to go to for that.
Yeah, Smitty, you're absolutely right. It could be that could be the better option. Just do a team site. It really depends on the company and the users. I do a SharePoint communication site has worked out really well for, like, example, Sorenson. It was good because one, some companies don't use Teams, but maybe not everybody has access to it, or they're using it a little bit differently. We can spin it up really quick. We can put files in there, training notes, training documents, all that kind of stuff. And it's more of a community site. But yes, a team works very well for those kind of situations. We can also use, if they have an existing intranet, we'll use that as well. Whatever makes sense for the customer to make sure we're communicating very well.
So we
But
gotta handle
good point. Good point. Yes, we can use that.
Yeah, if I could add an additional question on there. When's your next session? Like, I'd love to sit in on one of these, or if we could do like a mock one for our team, that would be great, just so I could kind of see what it looks like end to end. So then I can kind of think about the best case where I think I could utilize it.
Yeah, let's do that. If you want to do a mock one, and what we're doing, so I'm working with marketing right now to do a dynamics workshop, and we're going to put it on our website and start marketing that. And so if one comes up in the near future, if you guys want to attend that, you're more than welcome to do that. Or we can do one just like here and do a little mock one as well. So that'd be great. Happy to do that.
Thanks.
And there's a lot of details. If you guys have questions, like things like just a communication, maybe a company needs just a communication plan, or they just need some help with training or training video. I actually have somebody I'm working right now to do custom videos for people. So that's an option also. So there might be just bits and pieces of what you're looking at here, this playbook that a customer needs, and we can do that if people need that. Let me know if there's any questions or anything, and yeah, we'll set something up for a little mock workshop.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Yay, BJ. All right. If we've got, okay, you're still on the phone, right, guys?
Yep.
Just want to make sure BJ didn't hang up.
Oh, did I just hang up?
Oh, no, we're still there.
Okay.
So we've got Scott and Josh. Josh, are you still on that production call?
Yeah, I stepped away to do this, so.
Okay, we'll have Josh go real fast, and then Scott will show us. His.
Okay.
Okay. So this is pause real quick. These are some of the apps that we've been building.
All right. So we got a requirement from one of our customers, and if Walter is on the call, he could probably do a better job explaining. But what they basically wanted was they wanted a control that allows the user to dynamically search for certain products and create code details from those products. So within the, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Within the code experience, we embedded a web resource on the code lines area, which allows them to sort their products by different fields. They could page and increase the page to 10 or to 30 or something larger. They could sort by the name of the product. Search by the name of the product. This is a single field search. Or they can do a more robust search by searching multiple fields. These fields are pulled in dynamically from the entity. These drop-down lists are pulled from entities with option sets, and then you can use either the search control here. It will go pull the data and then represent the data here again. And then right from here, I'll pick a line item that has money on it, like a price. So let's say we do 150 PT fire alarm. They will hit this add products. They will specify the quantity they want to they want to add to the code line items and then hit OK. Then it will go and create it, and then it will add it to the code line items here. So if we refresh this, it gets added in here to the code line items. That's it.
So a couple questions. This search control, you've got it running on quote lines or quote details, but how transferable is this search web resource to other entities?
Yeah, I mean, it's custom, right? So I didn't make it dynamic. We made it hard-coded specifically for quotes, but we can always add a control that allows you to pull the entities first before you move forward, right? Everything right now is
Copy
tied to,
paste.
yeah,
Copy paste and replace.
You already
Okay.
know.
Out of curiosity, how much effort did this kind of control take? I mean, granted, I know there's like some recovery.
It took me 5 hours to build this and test it and get approval and get sign off.
Just 5 hours?
Yes, 5 hours.
Josh hours.
Hi, Josh.
I'm impressed.
Equal to 10 normal human hours.
Okay, all right. So 15, 20.
So I think, you know, Nevin is the one that brought this up. He's like, hey, we've built a lot of like custom apps recently for some of our projects. It'd be good to showcase some of these to get exposure to the team of, hey, there's Dynamics and then there's things that you can do on top of and inside of Dynamics. So here's a web resource. I think this would be a great piece of code, you know, web resource for everybody to get, to have access to, especially the devs. And then, you know, maybe our next action item out of this is, how do we turn this into a configurable search control where we can go into like a configuration entity for search and say, hey, I want it to run on these entities, and you know, these are the values I search. Like that might be again a nice piece of IP, or at least something that helps speed up our implementation of things like this.
Yeah, so I got to give props where props is due, Eric, just really quick. The control that is used to deploy these web resources was built by Derek. So Derek Finlayson wrote an NPM package. He is insanely smart. That when you build web resources into transpiled files, you can literally import that NPM package into your application and push it with literally one command. And he saved me a lot of times, because traditionally you would build it, you would copy the files over to Dynamics manually, but his NPM package just saved so much time. So credit where credit is due. Thank you, Derek.
Of course. Thank you, Derek. And 5 Josh hours are equal to 1 Derek hours. So if you're following the equation conversion scale here, 1 Derek hour is equal to like 20 Gorton hours, which is
This is
5 Josh
26
hours.
Postman hours. 26 Postman hours.
Because
So you
Postman was
start
writing
adding
beautiful
your
meeting notes after he built it. All right, just kidding.
We really are in
Super cool,
Inception
Josh.
today.
You know, more Inception.
We
Any
really
other
are
questions
this
on? Any other questions on this thread or on this product showcase?
You might want to take a look at this with Helmet House, because they're being very specific on how they want to have a product hierarchy that they can look through.
Has anybody
Well,
looked at the new preview of how you add products in quotes yet?
I have.
And it's not sufficient.
Pretty slick.
Through that, then we'll see it.
Something like this might come in real handy on some custom entities we're gonna need for poster compliance, because they're going to be configuring subscription types. And they'll need to be adding products to those subscription types. And they'll also be adding subscriptions. So there may be a couple places where we could use it there.
Awesome.
Hey, Josh, one consideration, did you say that you ended up having to hard code the option sets?
Yes. So The only thing that I didn't I didn't want to spend a lot of time on was, apart from the lookups, which are getting pulled dynamically. For the option sets, I just put in a select statement with the values, because it wouldn't be changing, but all of this can be pulled in dynamically, correct, Jonathan?
All right. Any other questions for Josh? Or Derek on his MPM? Well
Thank
done,
you.
Josh. Thank you, sir.
Take care. All right, take care. Bye.
The
Okay.
Earnest Machinery Canvas app?
Yes, Canvas app. And before anyone asks, my first Canvas app, and I am neither Derek nor Josh, so about 200 hours so far, and we're not anywhere close to done. So,
With a completely different type, right? Web
Right.
resources and Canvas apps? Apples
Yeah.
and flank steaks.
yeah.
Not even
So,
fruit.
but basically what we've got here is a Canvas app. It's replacing a Silverlight app that they have. So if you think about those of you who are old enough to know what Silverlight is, the functionality that was there, and we're trying to replace that. And so here we've got their their product list, and these are all made up products, but they also have hierarchy. So they want to be able to look up things, in this case, it's machine parts, screws, nuts, bolts, clevis bolts, things like that. And so they can look it up by a part number if they know that, or maybe someone calls up and says, I want something that has a diameter of 2¼ inches. Okay, and so they need to be able to type in something like 2¼ or maybe, of course, I picked something that's not there, 1.25. But anyway, being able to put in the diameter as both a decimal number and a fraction was very important to them. So we have lookups where we go in there, we check and see, based on does it exist in either one of these names, and then use the actual decimal number to do the lookup. So really, if I put in a decimal, I'm looking up against the fractions to see if there's a 1.25 fraction, which there isn't, but it does find it as a 1.25 decimal number kind of thing. Other things that they have their product hierarchy, and so there's you got bolts, and then you've got carriage bolts, and then you've got your number 3 head carriage bolts and all the other things underneath them. But this is going to be hard to show if things aren't going to show. But they also wanted synonyms. Okay, so someone might call something, I don't have a good example, but instead of a number 7 HD plow bolt, they might call it something else. And so in here in the category, we're actually looking up both for that name, the real name, and then if there's a synonym. So they can go in and they can add a synonym that'll say, whatever. I know I have one here, but I forgot which one it was that would show up multiples in here. And I probably should have tested that and come up with it before. But basically, they can come up with different kinds of things. Then they also will have the grade. Let me actually go in here and kill this guy. Come on. Well, maybe not. All right. Need to find one that will.
So this ability to map synonyms to products was super, super important because of people coming at them from different industries, different purchasers, different companies call them by different things. So they might have half a dozen different names for the same kind of fastener, and they needed to be able to look it up because their salespeople may not know all the synonyms off the top of their head, so they can't convert those on the fly.
All right. And again, we wait for pages. Okay. So my grade in here, same kind of thing. This is just getting values, and I think there's an ISO 8.8 has a few in it. so I can do all of these lookups, and then once I find a product or not.
Imagine with me, if you will.
All right, let's go ahead and clear that so I get back to all my products. I'll be able to click on a product and it will bring up product details is where I'm headed with this.
All we need is a product, just one.
Yeah, just one. All right. So let's pick this one here. And I bring this up, and I'll have multiple pages here, but I need to find an account because their price list is based on the account. It'd be nice to find a contact there with the, let me make that single select. Then I can go over and I can do stock. And at this point, this would be retrieved from Dynamics. This list here is kind of static, but let's say I want 10 of these and I'm going to sell them for 98 cents each. And I want 3 of these.
Hold on. I think
Yeah.
you're underselling this. That quantity available is actually going to be pulled from Dynamics Business Central.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So when this all gets done, we'll also have some really cool things. Sales history will be pulling in, information, and they've given us a whole list of things that they want to have happen there, but not functional yet. So I go through here and I select the products, and this will give me the warehouse it's coming from as well. In case they do have customers who want all of the same, a single lot, or all from a particular warehouse, or if they have a large order and they need to be able to order it from different warehouses and ship it from the 2 different ones, they'll be able to do that as well. And eventually we'll get back over here to our main page, and there should be another one show up here. Yes. Okay, so those products are there. And if we had more time, I'd go and click on.
We have time. Click
yeah,
it.
if we,
Click
oh,
quote.
okay. Well, I was going to pick another product and drop that in there so you'd see different product names. But I can click on quote, and what this will do is if I open this from a Dynamics page with a quote already, it will add these quote products to that quote. If not, it will create a quote, and then it will add these quote items to that quote. So
think of this as a very high detailed product picker to include those things that we don't have in Dynamics, like warehouse quantities, inventory levels, and even specific lot IDs, which we generally don't see, but in some industries is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So this is designed or intended to be used on the desktop and not on mobile, right?
Yeah, just because of screen layout.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you could run it off of a mobile app, but
but is this app embedded into CRM or?
It is.
Okay.
If I, where is my quote?
If you look at the bottom right of the screen, you see that blue quote button.
Okay.
There will be an order and an opportunity button right there as well, right?
Yeah, they're hidden now just because it was annoying to click on them and have nothing happen. But
so we'll be able to add these product line items to any of those 3 to help with the sales process.
Yeah. And for some reason, it did not create my quote for me, which is weird because it was doing it last night. Anyway, let's go over to my advanced find and go back to instead of creating today, create yesterday. Yeah, there's a quote that I created. And so this didn't exist until I clicked that quote button. So it went out and created the quote. And eventually it will load up and we'll see it.
I'm going to say it's not speedy in any way.
Yeah. I said I'm going to blame it on Teams because,
Okay,
you know.
turn off your camera, Scott. Yeah, sometimes that's
Okay.
because your internet pipe can only fit so much data through it.
Okay, you heard it
My
here.
internet went down during a demo today.
Have our account. I don't know if I didn't pick a contact or if that didn't work on this one, but I can go into my items on here and it will eventually show me. And then we have a, you know, Postman, get ready with your Inception GIF again. Because we'll show you if this ever loads up with our quote items. There we go.
Oops.
And everything is blank. That's interesting. All right. But, you know, the thing is that this is embedded in the quote form as well. So I click on the selector and it will bring up that same Power App running inside of this quote eventually. So.
Okay. Questions for Scott and or Nevin? Who did the BC integration?
Nobody.
Wink,
Nobody.
wink.
That's current
Fake data?
vaporware.
Fake data.
Yes, that is I made a collection that I'm faking and we're just showing that. So yeah, there's still a lot of things to work on there. I would say we're probably not even 10% done with it at this point.
From an hour's perspective, that's very bad.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well done. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Any other questions for the learning forum? Nope. Great, grand, wonderful. You get 4 minutes back, everybody, until you're 3 o'clock. Enjoy. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.